Hey everybody, this is Dave here at Pulp Alley, and today we're going to talk about this cool building, this cool warehouse, Cityblock Warehouse C125 by Sarissa Precision. Now, it's pretty much done. I don't really have the interior finished, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with the interior yet, but it's done enough. Now, there are things that I'd like to go on and do more too. Like, I'd like to put some posters on the outside, advertisement, that sort of thing. I was even toying with the idea of putting some plastic in for the windows to kind of represent glass. So there are things that I might do to the kit that don't really have anything to do with, what's presented in the materials. So I wanted to stop with where I'm at and just kind of talk about it. I made some notes while I was building this and afterwards about some of the things that I want to talk about on it. Some good, some not so good. And I also want to point out that we paid full price for this kit. It's not sponsored in any way. So, you get what you get. Let's see. Now, check this out. Check this out. Check this lovely out. Now, as far as the paint job, I'm pretty much finished with that. And I tried to kind of I really like the paint job that I saw on their online store. So I kind of mimicked the paint job there instead of trying to come up with something. I didn't mimic it exactly. And there are a few things that I did different here and there. It's actually a fairly complicated paint job once you get into this sort of stuff here, and the striping on the side and stuff. But look at that. That's really nice. So let's just talk about some of the stuff about this building. Now, if you look right here, I noticed this was on the online store as well. You see these four holes? Like there's a hole right here that clearly goes completely through. There's a hole there, there's a hole here, and there's a hole here. And they are exactly the same on the front. You have those. I don't know what they're for. They almost look as if something was intended to go in there, but then I started thinking about it and I wondered, are those supposed to represent like some sort of drain, for the roof? Do you think that's there to represent, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below, because I honestly, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what those holes are for. But is there something that I missed when I was building it? Was something supposed to go in there? I don't know. Four holes there again. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I like this skylight up here. That was a feature that looks really nice. Overall, I have to applaud them, Sarissa, for the scaling of this building. And you look at the roof here, this is the areas where it's very easy to get characters in there. Now, especially if you're using my little bases that I do, but if you're using big bases, then you're going to have a much harder time. Like this is the sort of base that most people are going to do. Even when I use this sort of base, I prefer the 20 millimeter, but if you're using big bases like that, well, you're not going to get anybody to stand next to the skylight. You can fit them in between, but of course, if you're using the nice 20 millimeter bases, and one of the big reasons why I prefer 20 millimeter bases is because of that exact reason. You can fit them in more places. So, uh, they did a good job of sizing this for the sort of bases I'm using. I think a lot of people would maybe prefer this to be a slightly wider. But as far as I'm concerned, I think the footprint of this building is spot on. I really do like the size of this building. I think it's big, it's beefy, it just feels like a good size. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting was this little bit of pavement out front. Now, obviously, you're not going to just come straight off the stairs and go off into the street. So it's almost like you want to have another section of pavement out here. Now, the way that I do my terrain, I think I'm going to take that gray piece off completely. That gray piece on the bottom there is a piece that goes completely across the bottom. There's a gray line here. There's a gray spot here. I don't need that. I don't need it there, and I don't need it back here. So for me, I think I'm going to yank that off of there, and hopefully I don't screw anything up when I do it. But for it to fit into my terrain, I think it'll look a little bit nicer. Now, they probably have a system or other terrain that this works with, but for me, I think it'll be better not to have that piece on there. The doors do not open and close. So and I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you fans of doors that open and close or not? I've seen companies that do doors that open and close. And I guess the big question is do you like it because it looks cool, or do you like it because you actually use it during the games? And I want to say that I like it because I prefer it during a game to show it whether or not a door is open or closed, or really show if somebody's standing there. Like if I wanted to place somebody in this doorway, I would basically just have to leave them on the inside. I couldn't actually put them in the doorway. If I wanted somebody to be here where these doors are open, well, you kind of have to. What do you do there? What do you do if you wanted to say, okay, well, I have somebody in that doorway there? And that's where it gets a little bit tricky. You either leave the doors on or you leave them off. Now, I don't think they intended to remove the doors because they were kind of tricky to pull off of there. But I went ahead and cut them out so that I could make them removable. And I think I'll make one of them, glue it in place, and I think I'm planning to do the other one where the doors are just permanently open, something like that, and glue them in that position. Because I think for gaming, it'll be more fun to do it that way. I want to show you the interior of this building, and I'm pretty happy with it. First off, let's just take a look at the interior here. So it's got a very usable interior. So here's the space inside there. I want you to look at the scale here. Looks really nice. One of the fun things, because of the sorts of bases that I use, I can actually put someone standing on the staircase. Look at that. I think that's freaking awesome. Without having to do those big freaking landing or weird looking steps that never look right. You can actually, because of the sort of bases that I use. And I think if you did like some small, acrylic bases, you could probably do the same thing. But it's neat that you could do that. And I can actually put characters standing on the stairways. I think it's a very usable interior space. Again, this is unfinished, but I wanted to show it to you anyway. If you have this top section here, this is all removable, and then you have the bottom there. Look there, and that's stairs. Now I haven't glued my stairs down yet, and I kind of thought that I might leave it loose in case I wanted to, put a plot point under the stairs or something like that. Sometimes it's just better to leave that sort of thing loose. The rooms down on the second floor and even on the top floor here, I'm going to put this back just so I can talk about. These look to be fairly small rooms. Are they too small? Maybe. Again, they made this a nice distance, so even if you're using the big bases like those, you can get somebody up there on that balcony. So really, really nice. The rooms, yeah, they do kind of look a little bit small, but you have to wonder, this is a warehouse, so what are those rooms? Are they small offices, or are they just small storage areas? Really, it could be just about anything you wanted it to be to decide on that sort of thing. But I think with the characters in there, I don't think it looks bad. As a matter of fact, I could probably put some crates in there and still say, okay, that's still usable. You're not going to get a lot of stuff in there, but it still fits really nice. I think maybe, and this is something that you could do yourselves, is maybe leave one of these walls off so that you have a small room and then a little bit larger room. Of course, it's going to have two doors going into it. And that's what I've kind of done here on the bottom floor. So I have this entryway here, this entrance. And then you come through here, and then maybe this room won't have that extra wall in there. Or, I could leave it where it is removable, and then I could either put that wall in there or leave it out, just depending on which way I want to do, whether I want the big wall in there. So this part down here hasn't really been glued together yet. But I think it's a very usable interior space. So I had a couple issues when I was putting the kit together, and had to do, one of the issues I had was with this second floor. Now, chances are you won't have the same issue, but I wanted to show you this just in case you ran into the same issue. And I really want to point out that I contacted Sarissa about what I'm going to share with you here, and they were very receptive. They were very nice. They were very supportive and helpful. And so kudos to them for wanting to do a good quality product. And you look at this, and I really do believe this is a good quality product. This is overall, I would definitely recommend this to anybody that was thinking about getting a building like this. I had a couple folks tell me that they don't really like the cardboard that they do. This kit there's no cardboard in this kit. It is all made with the 1/16 inch MDF. So what you see as far as the size here, that's basically the entire kit is made out of that same material. So the issue is that right here you see where it's a slightly different color, where there's a tan and then there's the darker brown color. There was a step, there was a protrusion, a tab, or whatever you want to call it, that came out here, and it was supposed to line up with the staircase and be kind of like the top step for the staircase. Let's see if I can get this arranged. So it kind of stuck out there. Now, if you have that on your kit, then I would just recommend try it and see if it goes together correctly. But what I had to do was just take that off of there. Used an X-Acto, and I gave it a few slices until it came off. Another interesting thing I think about that issue is that the tab doesn't actually appear on the instructions. When you look at the instructions for the kit, this camera here, when you look at the instructions for the kit, up there on the second floor, you don't see that tab there. That tab isn't actually even on there on the instructions. So for whatever reason, my second floor had this weird little extra step up there. And I believe, and if I understood the explanation correctly, is that it may have been an earlier file or an earlier design, and that they caught that, and the normal kits, the other kits would not have that on there. So I guess if yours has it, then consider making that small adjustment yourself, or reaching out to Sarissa, either way. But it's easy enough to snip off there, not a big deal. Let's see, let's talk about some other stuff here. I think overall the instructions are really pretty easy to follow, and I guess if I had any suggestion on that, I would just say follow their numbers, check it off as you go, do step 1, and actually do what it says, do step 2. Now, I'm the sort of person that I tend to look more at the pictures and just do that, so I didn't follow the steps as well as I should, and of course that means I had a few mistakes on my own part that I had to kind of go back and go, oh, I should have done that before I did this and that sort of thing. Maybe the pictures could be a little more clearer. I know some companies have online instructions that you can really zoom into that have, nice big pictures that help. But this probably doesn't need something like that. It's really pretty obvious on a lot of this stuff. I thought it was interesting that they had things numbered, but then on the pieces, I couldn't really reference a number anywhere to make sure. So again, you're just kind of looking at the shape and trying to make sure you have the right shape when you're doing stuff like that. I almost forgot one of the most important things, and I was like so excited. This is on the level of standing on the stairs excitement. I was so excited that the walls of the building are flat. And thank you, Sarissa. Thank you for thank you for making the walls of the building flat. So look at this, man. Oh man, and I just it has been so frustrating to me that so many companies get this wrong. So many companies get this wrong, and finally Sarissa nails it. The sides of the building are perfectly flat. Why is that such a big deal? If you are a gamer, if you're someone that plays, right? You know why that matters, because then you can start putting buildings up next to each other and they look right. They look the way they should on a city street when those buildings are placed side by side like that, and there's not that goofy, eighth inch that you cannot actually get your buildings to fit together. Sarissa actually delivers and does it right. So look at that, man. And it is so frustrating to me that so many companies get this wrong. Sarissa nailed this and got the sides of the building flat. So you could stack these side by side to make urban settings that actually look the way they're supposed to look. And it is ridiculous. Is this the first one? Is this the first one that I think someone actually did it right? Yeah, it might be. I think nearly every other company that I've looked at, they want to put something on the side, right? Because if you're showing the picture in a magazine or something like that, architecturally, it makes it more interesting to have some sort of something on the side of the building. But Sarissa made nice, clean, smooth walls, and thank goodness that's actually thinking about the gamers that play and that they want to be able to put their buildings together like that to make blocks. Then you have it and it works the way it's supposed to work. Now they have kits that are actually already made to fit together, and so their Cityblock series is, oh, I put that on backwards. Look at that. Let's turn that around. Their Cityblock series looks really, really interesting, and I think I'm going to probably end up getting some more of it. As far as the scale goes, I'm just really, really happy with it. It is the doors measure, the opening measure about 1 inch and 3/8, which is exactly what I use when I make my scratch-built buildings, is a height of 1 and 3/8 inches. I think that's something like 35 millimeters or something like that. It's also consistent, I believe, with folks like Foreground. I think that's what they did. I think that's what Things for the Basement do. Some companies do much larger doors, and those I'm not a big fan of. I don't like those doors. Once you get over about 1 inch and 3/8, maybe 1.5 inches is still okay, but once you get over that, it feels like the doors are just way too big. So I wanted to show you here is a character next to a door. And I think that looks right. That's the scale that we look for when we're doing our own. And there you go. That's what the character looks like next to the door. Now the stairs obviously are a little out of scale as far as the height and things like that. But, it is what it is, and it works really good. Again, I really like it because I can actually put a character standing on the stairs, that just amuses me to no end. I find that really fun. Having characters, move up halfway up a stairs. And if you're a longtime gamer like I am, that's the sort of thing that you go, ooh, that's something new, because so many companies, you can't do that. Or it's big clunky stairs, 1 inch square stairs that you go up that just look even sillier. So that's something really cool. Overall, I was really pleased with how everything came off of the sprue. I think everything was cut through really nicely. This is a view of these doors. I thought one thing that was interesting is that some of the what I thought would be etching, like here on the bolts or the screws here, and I don't know if this was intentional or not, but some of what I thought should be etching actually goes all the way through. So those holes, and I probably can't hold it up where you could actually see through the holes, but those holes go all the way through. Those are so I'm not sure why those go all the way through. It seems like they should be etched, like these bolts over here. You can kind of see it makes it look like bolts, but these were, these are clearly, cut all the way through. So that I found kind of interesting. Somebody asked us about how well this takes paint, and it takes paint really, really well. Not only does it take paint really well, it holds the paint really well. So, MDF is somewhat porous. The paint is not just sitting on the surface. It's actually, it takes wear and tear fairly good, even better than I would say, like resin buildings and things like that. This really kind of holds onto that paint really good, better than other surfaces, in my opinion. Occasionally, maybe some of the MDF is more porous than others and it kind of absorbs some of that color, but then that's not really a bad deal. You just go over it with a second coat and then it's perfectly fine. This did really, really well on the paint. Some folks are going to ask, and some folks have already asked, about what colors did we use. So I can't tell you what Sarissa used. If you go onto their website and you're looking at this particular warehouse and their paint job, I tried to kind of mimic it a little bit. But let me show you the colors that I used. And I did a lot of spray painting. But as far as the gray, that is Army Painter Uniform Gray. Let me switch cameras here. Army Painter Uniform Gray is what I used for all of the gray that you see. And I may eventually do something else with it, but all of the gray that you see on here was at least base coated with that Army Painter Uniform Gray. And then I used this skeleton bone. I have a spray paint of that, just a rattle can, and that's what this tan here is. Here and here, skeleton bone. That's what all of that tan color is. And again, it's the exact same throughout the entire building. I did not get fancy and try and change different shades and stuff. So that's what that is. And then for the brick, guess what that is? That's an old fur brown. I really like fur brown by Army Painter, and that is this color here. It has a nice amount of red in it, at least to my eye it does. So I like using that for bricks. I think it makes a really nice brick color, and that is fur brown. That's what I used on that. And then I did some dry brushing on it to try and, pick out some of the details. And you can kind of see it here on this side. You can see the, splotches. Can you see the splotches? Okay, so there was some dry brushing, and then I did my stain as well to kind of soften it a little bit, but very, very subtle, almost subtle to the point that you really can't even see it. I don't know. Can you see it there? I did a little bit of dry brushing up here, and for that I just used a no-name, ceramic paint, antique white, to try and sharpen up some of the edges. Again, so subtle that it might not even be noticeable. And then here's the other side over here. So the next thing that I really have to do is to finish the interior. So I don't know. I've been thinking about maybe doing something different with the interior walls, and maybe it's a stretch. Maybe using a different color on these. I haven't really decided yet. But let me know in the comments. What do you think a nice color would be for this? Should I do the floor a different color, or should I do this? Another thing that was different about when I looked at the online, it almost looked like this piece had a wood grain. The second floor had a wood grain, and this obviously does not. Another thing that I'd like to just point out is that I think they just did a really good job of nice, clean cutting. You don't see a lot of scorching here. Even here, you can see a little bit of scorching here. These are just really nice cuts. Everything came out where it was supposed to come out really nice. I kind of wished, they had cut the doors in a little bit more, but I'm not sure that they actually intended you to pull those off. Like down here for this door, I couldn't pull. I could have, but I gave up. I thought I would cut loose this bottom small door down here too, but I eventually gave up on it because it was going to take a little too much cutting, so I left it in there. What do you guys think? Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. Get subscribed to our little channel. Make sure you hit that like button and the bell, and we're going to see you next time. Bye, everybody.